When you think about India's role in the world, you probably think of it as a medical powerhouse. It has the most medical colleges on the planet, and people fly in from all over for treatment. And yet, millions of its own citizens can't get even the most basic care. So, how can that be? How can a country be a leader in medicine but also face a massive health crisis at the same time? It's a huge paradox, and to understand it, we really need to break it down.
So, here's our plan. First, we're going to really dig into this paradox. Then we'll see it through the eyes of two very different patients. After that, we'll explore the big divide between public and private healthcare, look at what happens when the whole system fails, and finally, check out some really powerful ideas for what can be done.
All right, let's start with this central puzzle. On the world stage, India's medical achievements are, well, they're undeniable. But for millions of people living there, that strength might as well be on another planet. This is a story of incredible breakthroughs and just devastating failures, happening all at once.
I mean, just look at the scale of this. It's staggering. On one side, you have a nation that trains more doctors and churns out more medicine than almost anywhere else. It's a global leader. But then you look at the other side and the reality is just grim. We're talking about preventable diseases like TB and malaria claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. Malnutrition is everywhere. So the country has the brains, it has the people, it has the resources, but they just aren't reaching everyone.
Okay, to really get this divide, let's zoom in from the big national picture to something much more personal. We're going to follow the stories of two friends, Aman and Ranjan. Both of them get sick with the same thing, but you'll see their experiences are worlds apart.
So first up, we've got Ranjan. His family's doing pretty well, so his dad takes him to a shiny new private hospital. And his first impression, well, it says it all. He's just blown away by how clean and fancy it is, with nice music playing. He literally thought it was a five-star hotel.
And then there's Aman. His family is just getting by. He ends up at a public government hospital, and his experience isn't one of awe. It's one of pure exhaustion. He feels so sick he can barely stand up, and he's stuck leaning on his dad in a huge, crowded line, just waiting.
And right here, this is where their journeys just completely split. Ranjan's family pays up front, and boom, he gets friendly, immediate attention, and they run a bunch of tests right away. He even gets to see the same doctor again, so there's some consistency. Aman, though, it's just one long queue after another. He has to wait 3 whole days for his test results, and when he finally gets them, he sees a totally different doctor who has no idea who he is. So, what was the price tag on these two very different experiences? For the exact same illness, a simple viral fever, a man's family paid 150 rupees. Ranjan's family, for that 5-star treatment and all the extra medicines, they paid over 3,500. That is more than 20 times the cost. For the same outcome, just let that sink in.
The stories of Aman and Ranjan perfectly lay out these two parallel healthcare systems that are running in India. So let's zoom back out for a second and really define what these public and private systems are all about.
Okay, so first you have the public system. This is where Aman went. It's run by the government and it's funded by everyone's taxes. The whole point of it is to provide healthcare to every single citizen, no matter how much money they have. It's supposed to be this huge network, from tiny village clinics all the way up to big city hospitals.
And then you have the private system, where Ranjan went. This is a totally different world. These are businesses, clinics, labs, hospitals, and they are designed to make a profit. You, the patient, have to pay for every single thing you get. And surprise, surprise, you mostly find these places in the big cities.
But what happens when the system that's supposed to be a safety net for everyone, the public system, what happens when it just completely falls apart? Well, let's look at the absolutely harrowing story of a man named Hakim Sheikh. Seriously, this story is just infuriating. Hakim Sheikh gets a critical head injury, and he's turned away from not 1, not 2, but 8 different government hospitals. For 14 agonizing hours, they shuttle him from one to the next, and every single one has an excuse. In a literal life-or-death situation, the safety net failed him again and again, pushing him into a private hospital that he absolutely could not afford.
So, angry and just completely let down, Hakim Sheikh took his case to court. And the court's decision was a really big deal. It ruled that the government's job to provide health care isn't just some nice idea. It's a fundamental part of the constitutional right to life. What the court was saying is, if you can die because a hospital won't let you in, then your most basic right as a human being is being violated.
Hakim Sheikh's ordeal really exposes this much deeper issue that's woven all through Indian healthcare: inequality.
cost is a huge barrier. Where you live is another. Doctors all want to be in the cities, leaving rural areas with almost nothing. And sadly, gender plays a role too, with women's health often being pushed to the back of the line. It all adds up to a system where, if you're poor or live in the wrong place, getting sick can mean financial ruin. Get this. 40% of people who end up in the hospital have to borrow money or sell their things just to pay the bill. That's a catastrophe.
So after hearing all these problems, you might be thinking, is there any hope? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The challenges are massive, but they're not impossible to solve. Let's switch gears and look at a couple of real-world examples of how things can actually be done differently.
First, let's look at the state of Kerala. Back in 1996, they did something pretty radical. They decided to decentralize power. They gave 40% of the entire state budget directly to local village councils. What this did was empower communities to plan for their own needs, things like investing in clean water, better food, and local health centers. So instead of just reacting to crises, they built a foundation of health from the ground up.
And if you want an even bolder idea, check out Costa Rica. Decades ago, this country made a huge decision. They decided to not have an army. Think about that. All the money that other countries pour into defense was suddenly freed up. And what did Costa Rica do with it? They invested it in their people, in health, education, sanitation, and nutrition. And the result? Today, it's considered one of the healthiest countries in the entire region. So these examples from Kerala and Costa Rica really force us to think about what healthcare even is. It's not just about what happens inside a hospital, right? It's about the everyday stuff that keeps people from getting sick in the first place. And that brings us right back to India's paradox. The country clearly has what it takes to be a medical superpower. The final question is really about choices. Will it keep investing in five-star hospitals for a few, or will it start investing in the basic building blocks of health for everyone?